Hello, lovely people. It's Thursday today, and I realised that having said I would stream yesterday, it was very remiss of me not to. Um, as you all know, if you have paid attention along the way, I struggle with a number of things, and well, one of them happens to be bin day. And I just can't explain it. I'm a grown woman, I'm old, and I am capable of many things. But remembering to put my bin out on a Wednesday isn't one of them. Now, in my old house, bin day was tomorrow. And on a Thursday night, prepping for the weekend, because, well, this time tomorrow, you're at the weekend. Time is yours. You're prepping. And it made sense in my mind to put out the bins and, empty them for the festivities or lack of, for the weekend. To be ready for the time of your own. Doing them on a Wednesday night just does not work. Because, well, Wednesday's midweek. Wednesday's nowhere near anything sensible. Now, I am not naive enough to believe that bin days can only be Friday, because, of course, they've got many people's rubbish to collect, and so some poor bugger gets Monday and Tuesday. But again, Monday makes sense, because now you're clearing up after the weekend. Tuesday's kind of a bit weird, Wednesday's weird, Thursday's weird. So there's 3 days a week when it's weird. Now, next week, hurrah, it'll be Friday, because on weeks with a bank holiday, our bins are collected 1 day later, and I have no problem setting aside some Thursday night to do the bins. But I must be here, 5 years plus now? Still can't do it. Every week, I get to Thursday morning, the bin men rock up, and obviously my bins aren't out, and I go, oh yeah, it's Thursday today. Even though I know what day of the week it is, I'm, again, not entirely stupid. I have my moments, I'm sure you'll agree. But it just, for some reason, I can't do it on a Wednesday night. But that aside, don't need yawns on. We're not yawning yet. Give them a moment to come through. So ow! Dog paws on my butt. Someone using their claws to sink into my butt. That's not funny, dog. Right. One thing you might notice today is a return of the jumper, for it has been cooler today. Hell's Teeth, they're talking of, the lowest point temperature today being 8 degrees centigrade. That's like winter, that is. That's cold. So, the jumper came out today, and I have not exactly been roasting alive. We did play some ball in the garden, because we could. And discovered that my dogs have been trying to dig through to Australia, or wherever the hell they think they're going. I have no absolute direct clue as to where they think they were going to end up, but all I will say is it's a freaking deep hole. It's certainly an ankle breaker, and should Mr. Burglar come snooping round my garden in the middle of the night, there is an exceedingly good chance he will fall down it, and probably snap an ankle, and I will laugh. Now, obviously, Mr. Burglar's got to get in my garden and all the rest of it, but that aside, should Mr. Burglar fall down and snap his ankle in a hole in my garden that the dogs have dug, I will not weep for him. And as the only things that should be in my garden are me and the dogs, well, whatevs. I mean, I'm not overly impressed, because obviously, you know, it is a sizable depth. It's got to be 10, 12 inches in depth. It really is kind of impressive. And it's not particularly big, as in, you know, I can't put a small car in it or anything, but it is, well, just decisively bigger than you might think. If you bear with me as I rewind this bobbin, which is taking forever, because bobbins do, I'll show you. So, once again, boom style sharing a photo, because it's just too much grief to try and transfer it. Now, it's not going to be hugely clear, but as you can see by the shadow, someone has been digging in the corner of my garden. I'm going to take my jumper off because I've already started overheating. Because apparently brain cells make me do that. It's either that or they make me cold, one or the other, but it's probably partly because I've just eaten my dinner, so let's go with the whole dinner idea. Now, I will warn you, I've done something to my thumb. I have really offended my thumb in many ways. And I'm not sure this will be a long stream, because I've got quite a few achy fingers. And I was kind of playing a bit of a game after work. I only did about 5-10 minutes of it, but both my hands went totally numb. So I am, you know, and while I am not the biggest, well, it's not I don't believe in RSI, because I do. But 5-10 minutes should not be triggering RSI in someone with no previous symptoms. So this is, I'm not blaming RSI for this one. I don't think I have that right. But certainly running around killing things, as you do in a lot of games, made my hands go numb. And as I say, my hands were already a little bit stiff and weird. So I can't guarantee operational capacity of my fingers being at their best. And to be honest, I would say my judgment was probably spot on, because this finger, this one, has been grumpy for a while now. It's like I broke it, but without breaking it that I'm aware of. Because I've broken a couple of fingers in the past. It's like I broke it. Now, I don't ever remember breaking that one. I've broken a couple, as I say, but that was not one of them. This hand, I broke a couple. My little fingers, which is why they're kind of not straight. And this finger, in fact, which is also not straight. This one I cycled down the garage, fell off my bicycle. This one I trapped between me and a telegraph pole while skiing and falling over. Broke a couple hitting things in karate, but nothing to cause this. So I don't know what's wrong with this one. It's been funny for a while. I probably should go to the doctor, but it's only a finger. It's hardly gonna, be life-shatteringly important. And they'll probably just kind of go, oh, well, we'll send you for an x-ray. Oh, you've got arthritis because you're old. Yeah, cheers for that, So, truth of the matter is unless it's fixable, I don't really care, do I? The only time you really care is as long as if they can fix it or not. The answer's not, then, well, knowing doesn't really help you, does it? Now, of course, there is the other side to that coin of, well, you won't know if they can do anything about it until you go and find out what it actually is. And this is very true. Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes you don't want to know, you know? Sometimes it's a mystery that's best left unsolved. So I don't know. It would be good to hear from you today. To cheer me up a little bit. Now, let's have a quick count. 1, 2, 4, 5. That looks like 6 and a half. I must have done that wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. So let's take 37 off this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. I really like this table. I mean, there is a small part of me wishing it had an adjustable height. However, the actual table, shape of the base and everything else is really good. It's just a little bit wobbly. And to be honest, they could have done something with that, I feel. If they had really, really wanted. You know, but like all things. I had another bit of a go at needle tatting earlier today in my lunch, and perhaps in part during a meeting, and I made this. So it is not the most exciting thing in the world, but these little 6-petal flowery things can be joined together, so you have 1, 2, 3, and you have 1, 2, 3, so you can join them all together and make like a little sheet of them. So I thought I'd see how I'd do with that at some point. Do a few more of those. You know how it is. Ooh, did I miss another hole? Somebody thought that they checked all these holes. I don't know, I seem to have missed a few. Remember I bought some fly swatters? Probably just over a week ago. These ones. Well, one thing I have discovered is it already seems that the battery's knackered. which is a little bit frustrating because, well, I'm not having very long. I mean, I don't expect them to last forever, but, you know, a bit longer than that would be nice. I think I've worked out why my arms are feeling a bit wonky. It's because, remember I said to you about holding my arms up and doing something? I can't even really remember what we were doing, but I remember talking to you guys about how tiring it was to have to like hold my arm up like this. Because it does remind me a lot of my karate days where, you know, so-and-so would have you out in a punch like this, and you'd be, you know, you'd be doing your punch, and he'd tell you like half his life story or something, and you had your arms out there, you know. Technically, I'm sure it's building muscles, but he's just wearing on, and your arm's really tired. And to be honest, it really upset my shoulders more than my arms. It's like my shoulders got a flat spot. So for anyone who's ever driven, it was like getting a flat spot on a tyre, in that sometimes as you kind of like move your shoulder up and down like this or whatever, right, it's like it would kind of lock into a spot and you had to kind of like over the edge of the kind of locked bit. Now I'm not saying that that's actually how it works, because I'm not that stupid, but you know, sometimes you'll be sitting there and your arm will, and your shoulder just kind of goes clunk and you're like, okay. I mean, it doesn't do it on command, so it's not, you know, that big a deal, but it does do it enough that you feel that it has to be related. It cannot just be your mind playing tricks on you. Now, again, I'm a bit of an old fart. I know that my body is not, you know, nubile and prim and perky, and I'm already out drink. I really did not plan this very well. But it is frustrating that, you know, hobbies that were supposed to keep me fit and healthy seem to have done me far more damage than they did. I'm not saying I wasn't fit at the time, because fit I certainly was, but healthy? Apparently not. I mean, it buggered my knees to the point that when I then did something to them, I won't say this I would normally, you know, I'd expect a normal person to survive, but one of them really wasn't that bad. And it obviously had weakened them. Well, it had strengthened them in one way and I think weakened them in another. I think that's probably more accurate. Obviously I've got my shoulders, I've got sore fingers and kind of bits like that, and a couple of, I've got a toe that's kind of up there doing that too. And all of it is related to kicking and punching things. And, you know, dislocating, breaking, you know, stubbing, spraining bits of myself along the way. So for that in mind, it is kind of sad that a hobby you do to, you know, make you better doesn't. I mean, they say in some ways the same's true of running. That running can actually cause you quite a few issues. It's great while you're like 20, but the moment you're not 20 anymore, it can give you issues, kind of thing, and you end up with bad feet and all the rest of it, and you're kind of going, well, if it's that bad for us, why do we keep doing it? Why do we keep touting that it is, you know, good and healthy and, you know, all of those kind of moments? So, Never mind. I really do need some drink. Drink! Um, Definitely. For my cupeth is emptieth. Seriously. As you can hear, no liquid in that. And it is... I haven't drunk a lot today, which also, of course, then means that I'm a bit dehydrated and in desperate need of drinkage. So, holding back is not really... You know, it's not like I've spent all day on the toilet today and, you know, I'm kind of in need of cutting back here. So if you bear with me a moment, I shall be back in a second. Oop, dogs are woken up. And I shall be back with a drink. Hang on a moment. Back again. So, here we go. Got a drink. It's not Coke. That's all I can say to that. This is not Coke. It's Pepsi. It's not horrible. It's just not Coke. Right. And my brain wanted Coke. Well, got 2 lots of Pepsi to drink, so... my neighbour donated them to me. And as I say, it's not I don't like it. It's just, it's like drinking a cup of tea when you expected coffee or the other way round. It's not that you don't like it necessarily, it's just not what your brain thought it was. And your brain's just kind of going, hang on, that's not right. Because of course it looks very similar in the cups. So it's kind of going, you fooled me. You said... The answer is no. I did not say... Hang on, something's not quite right here. So you over, under, over. Check. Don't cross anything. No, good. just reading something someone posted to me. Dogs are off eating their dinner, which is why they're being so quiet. Mind you, I need to order more dog food or there won't be many more meals left. And then I'll be very unpopular. Even though tomorrow, of course, is takeout night where we get chicken nuggets for the dogs. I'm not pretending that chicken nuggets are healthy, but you only get a couple of nuggets each. I think it's usually like 2 or 3 each, you know. And for anyone who's eaten chicken nuggets, they'll know that that's not exactly a lot of food. And I have medium-sized dog, so from that point of view, it's not going to do them any real harm, and it's a treat for them, which they enjoy. They like their nuggets. They don't enjoy waiting for me for them to cool down, because waiting for them to cool down is not fun. Knowing that there are nuggets and mummy isn't feeding them, it's cruel. Apparently. So I've been told. Apparently this makes me cruel and evil. But it is the way of life. Oh my friends, why am I so tired? But never mind. I'm sure you will forgive me, because you're nice people. I know. What we need to do today, we need to put the music on. Because that's distinctly a thing. Although, I might be being a bit quiet. Am I a bit quiet today? Is that a thing? This'll do. So, time to go here, here, pick that, turn that, hit go. I do have a cunning feeling that I am being incredibly quiet today, and that my mic is not picking up like normal. There we go. And then we hit play. Good boy. Oh, yeah. Oh. Don't be licking my jumper. Don't mind using it as a pillow. Don't be licking it. Oh. Hardly call this dance music. Hello, hello. How are you? By the way, am I really quiet or is it just me? I'm sure I can trust you to tell me if I'm being quiet. My mic seems to be a lot lower than I would have expected. Fair enough. It's just that normally when I speak, I kind of get to the top end of the green because, well, I'm not known for being quiet. And right now it's kind of down this end of the green. And it's kind of weird because, you know, it'd be unusual for me to be quiet. Well, as you know, every time there's been a Windows update, it seems to affect everything. And an awful lot of it can't really be tested until you hit stream. So it is just a little bit frustrating. You know, the petty as it sounds, having the lips move on my little doodie in the bottom corner, I think is really helpful. In that it's better than looking at my face, I assure you, than that. But it allows you to have some element of connecting with me without me feeling too kind of exposed, and not literally, obviously, because I am wearing clothes, people. But, you know, not too kind of out there and because I'm not really ready for that. But at the same time, it also tells you if something's wrong with the mic. So if you can see my mouth moving and you can't hear anything, clearly I've muted it and I'm dumb. Or, or if you can hear me and it's not moving, it's probably a Windows update. And there's just this whole myriad of crap that seems to go with it. That's just kind of, well, largely unnecessary is the only word I can come up with for it. And it just makes everything just that bit more hard work, You know what? Someone else. That's better. Sorry if that was anyone's favourite tune, but getting on my nerves, frankly. I think that's one of the things I definitely suffer from with my version, my variant of autism. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that much as music is calming and enjoyable, and to be honest, I like nearly everything. I mean, I obviously have things I prefer over other things, but I don't dislike a lot, and I think it's got a bit of a tune to it. I'm generally good, but there are some times and certain circumstances where just certain things just drive me up the wall. And I can't always put a finger on it. It could be my favourite song, and at the wrong time, I just... No. No. Ooh, excuse me. See, the yawns have started now. No good. I'm gonna put that on before it gets too bad. Something weird. Yeah, it's normal. It's just the angle and the pins and stuff. No, I don't think we can go quite that repetitive. Sounds like someone needs to kick the record player. No, I actually want stuff with kind of. Let's try this. I've always puzzled by people because, for example, where I worked prior to the beginning of the year, if I had had 3 times off, and it's hardly an emergency. I mean, so surely you would book it in advance. I know that over here, excuse me, last week was A-level kind of results. This week was GCSE kind of results. So I think GCSEs came out yesterday, right? So I can understand, but your kid either did well or they didn't. I mean, they did well, surely you were kind of half expecting that because they'd shown promise. And if they did badly, well, surely you were expecting that because, well, they'd shown kind of lacking. My parents didn't take time off. Now, admittedly, my parents were evil, but it wasn't really the done thing in our time to have your parents around. I mean, when my GCSE results came out, I was away for the week. And I got a phone call, 8 o'clock in the morning, I was still in bed. Liz, phone, and the throne came hurled at my head. Hello. Why did you fail? Were the words out of my parents' mouth. And by the way, I didn't fail. Now, I was the first year of GCSEs, which were renowned for being the most confused year, because obviously they weren't the stuff everyone had been used to for the last 30 years. But at the same time, the grades were similar but not similar, and things like a D was not a failure, but in your parents' eyes probably was, even though you didn't, and it was very complicated. And yeah, I got 6 Ds, 3 Bs, 2 Cs or something. No, 6 Ds, 3 Cs, 2 Bs. Something like that. I'd have to go and check, to be honest. But the truth of it all was that I don't think anyone gives a rat's ass what my GCSE results are. I mean, nearly any job these days asks for degrees, and it doesn't matter that I'm 50-something. They still want degrees, and so I don't bother reading the rest of my CV because I don't have one. But my co-worker, for example, booked Thursday, Friday off last week because their daughters were getting their results. But they booked the time off. You don't just call in, hey boss, not coming, it's results day, bye. That's kind of not the done thing. But if I'd called in and said not coming in today, more than 3 times pretty much in a year, my boss would have had me up in front of HR. In fact, I had 4 days with kind of flu-y symptoms, came back to work, and about a month later had a migraine. I got pulled into HR because it was more than 4 days. In a month. The fact that it was 2 things, and the company knows I get migraines because they have it on their medical list. So, it's not like it was a shock, But yeah, I got called into HR for that. No. And so, if he's got a co-worker who keeps kind of, hey boss, not bothering today, loves, kisses, bye, surely she is dancing on the ice of no job tomorrow kind of moments. I mean, my kind of autism has that I have some sympathy for a business. I mean, you're being paid to do a job. If you're not there doing it, just as you and I wouldn't be pleased if we paid for a man to do something and he didn't show, you can pretty much guarantee an office is going to be pretty pissed if you don't, or whatever you do is going to be pretty miffed if you don't show to do your job. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, and this is where I've always struggled a little bit with maternity leave. Now, I fully understand that as women, we are the bearers of children. And I'm not always going to pretend that is a choice we made. That, you know, occasionally this is not of our choosing. However, it it always confused me a little, and I get it, but I don't. It's one of those, I understand it that as an employee, just because you chose to have a baby doesn't mean that you don't want your job, because it doesn't. But on the flip side, the number of women I've seen who come back from their job and they are useless because they've had a year off, they can't remember a single thing of what they did. Plus, they usually don't want to be there full time because they've got to go and pick little, you know, they can't leave Kiddie with some form of minder all day because it's too expensive. And or it's, you know, when it's old enough for school, well, you've got to take it to school and bring it back, collect it from school, and oh, it's inset day, and all there's, you know, school play and parents' evening, and little Jimmy's fallen over and banged his nose, and they just never. And then every time little Brat's sick, I've got to be at home for Brat. Well, from a company perspective, you're not really getting the best of them, are you? You know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but from a company perspective, you're paying for an employee, and their mind's elsewhere. I mean, I don't know whether you call it the same as we do, but the number of mothers who have what we call baby brain when they come back, which is, you know, the not concentrating, constantly, you know, kind of wondering, you know, what's little Jimmy up to, you know, is he alright, wanting to phone and check in on him, and, well, they're not concentrating, they're not bringing their best. Now, there are all days we do not bring our best. I mean, let's truly be honest. No one brings their best game 100% of the time. We like to think we do, but, you know, there are days we sit there and we kind of go, I'm fit for staring at the walls. Counting the ceiling tiles might be the you know, pinnacle effort of my day. We'll skip this one. Well, exactly. And so, it's not that I hate on them, but I find it difficult from a company perspective, because when I was a kid and, you know, first got a job, one of the first things that everybody stressed to you was leave your personal life at home. So it didn't matter what was going on at home, whether the kid was sick, hubby was sick, you know, parents were in holiday, in hospital, you know, whatever it was, you should leave that at home and concentrate on your job. That is what you're paid for. And having watched many co-workers with children and the like, it just seems to be a license to print, I'm not in work, I'm not paying attention. No, and to be honest, you know, there's a reason I'm not a parent, right? But at the same time, you know, if you think of it from a company perspective, they're paying you to come and do a job between the hours of A and B, and expect you to do a reasonable effort. It does sound like you did really well. I mean, well, oh, I'm the spare one. Yeah, you got two kids and a spare. I get it. But I think it's one of those things is that doesn't always pan out well, because, for example, I have friends who really struggle to have children. And if they hadn't managed to save a lot of money and go through IVF and end up with the two children that they did, having someone taking liberties in the office when they cannot have children. When, no, despite it all, they can't. And watching them, oh, well, I've got to go now. I've got little, little Timmy this and, little Johnny that and, oh, it's concert night or it's, little Jimmy singing in the school choir or whatever it is, right? Can you imagine how much that would rub in to someone who can't? It's a bit like I have problems with Mothering Sunday and Father's Day because I'm somewhat lacking in that department. And listening to the whole, watching the whole TV bang on about it when you do not have that. Yeah, I made a strong stuff, but there was one time it really, really hit me. It was just before we got married. And it was a cancer ad, by the way. And there was a woman standing there in her wedding dress, much like, I'd done in the shop. My mother should be here. That really hit hard. Because my mother wasn't there helping me. And now, she wasn't not there due to cancer, but the reason she wasn't there was irrelevant. My mother was not there either. But people go, oh, it's a shame when they've died of cancer and stuff. Not when they buggered off with someone else and been a trollop. That's what my mother did, by the way. So there is a bit of you that kind of goes, you almost feel penalised because people won't be sympathetic with you. It's like people with hidden disabilities. And, if you are restricted enough but do not have a blatant thing for it, the number of times you see, videos on YouTube of you can't park here, you're not disabled. Well, just because they've got a false leg on doesn't mean they're not disabled. But at the same time, potentially they can still run a marathon. So, I kind of get it. But if they're entitled to handicap parking, they're entitled to handicap parking. Who am I to judge any better? Because you've got to pass through quite a lot of hoops to get handicap parking. At least over here you do. So if you've managed to get a handicap badge, good on you. Make as much use of it as you need. And if you're having a good day, maybe you won't. If you're having a shit day, maybe you will. Now, technically, I'm entitled to a handicap badge. I wouldn't apply for it, but I'm entitled to one if I wanted one. If I applied, I'd be assessed, they'd give me one. But I'm not that bad. I have days, but then I don't go out so much now, so I don't really care. But I do think it's a bit like when, again, I don't know what it's like over your side of the world, but we have mother and children parking. So it is parking designed for parents who've bought their spawns of Satan to the shop. Now, I do have a lot of sympathy for the single mother who, through no fault of her own, is dear Lord dog, is a single parent, has no one to leave it with so they can go shopping. Every sympathy for that. Well, exactly. Now, like everything, there's disabilities and disabilities. You could argue that a deaf person does not need a handicap badge, but they are distinctly with a disability. On the other hand, if you are if you have a hidden disability, much as deafness. I mean, deafness usually becomes apparent, but You don't look wonky, so there can't be anything wrong with you. Well, I'm so glad you feel that way. It's it is very difficult. Well, of course it would. But at the same time, they don't need it for inability to move reasons. They need it for safety reasons. But, you know, like everything, why is it that... I mean, we have mother and baby parking, as I said, and there's like tons of it. And the problem is if you listen to the conversations as you walk around doing your shopping, the number of them who have bought their little spawns who are using the place as a playground and that they are making no effort to control. Oh, I brought them with me because my husband appreciates the quiet time. Who says I want to hear it? I came here to buy me dinner, not play dodge the sprog, you know? It's... Hello? No, I know what you mean. The number of people, the standard of driving in car parks. I mean, God help us, these people are on the road. I remember sitting in my car, you know, kind of having struggled to do my shopping. And not, you know, obviously I don't have a Packard, so I was not in the handicap spot. This guy was parked next to the handicap spot. So there were a load of spots, and he was kind of like the first normal spot. He cranked his wheel, whacked into the car, and put his foot on the floor quite hard, to the point the car lifted up, landed back down, all the alarm went off and everything. And drove off. And I'm kind of sitting there going, did I just dream that? I remember in a car park once, me and boyfriend at the time, so I was quite young, we got in his car and we were just kind of discussing whether we go here or there kind of thing. And the people decided to get out of the car next to us. Now, it was one of those multi-stories, and so there's a big kind of post. I mean, they're bigger than that, they're like this size, but, you know, there's a post like this between our car and theirs. So we're one side of the post, they're the... So they had to be at least a decent width. It's not like, you know, they'd parked this far. They had to be at least the post apart. Whack! It hit their car door, hit our car so hard with two people in it that it lifted up slightly. And I glared at her with the, you know, the whole what the fuck look. And she smiled and walked off. And you kind of sit there going, there's no way she didn't notice. But these people, of course, do drive. Admittedly, she was the passenger and I was the driver. But I was so kind of taken back at the time that I forgot to get out the car and scream at her. So I need to work out what's going on here with these bobbins because they're doing weird things. But yeah, I mean, I see a lot of weird stuff at work. So, someone I know at the company I work for, our working hours are you may start any time between 7 and 9:30. You must then do 8.5 hours because we get a half-hour lunch, but we have to work an additional bit of time because we work half-day Fridays. So we have to basically earn that right in advance. Anyway, the number of times this person doesn't rock up between, well, till nearly 10:30 is reasonably common. And twice now, at least twice, has missed the team meeting. And our manager's kind of gone, where's so-and-so? And I'm not saying they haven't had an excuse, but their children are late teenagers. It's not like, you know, little 5-year-old Timmy needs to be taken to school here, you know. So yeah, it's always been a problem. There's always someone who takes the mick, to be honest. And as you've said, it's amazing how, you know, like, the more they get away with it, the more they try to find out where the limit is. And somehow they always seem to get away with it. But I can tell you now, I bet my butt, if I was 5 minutes late, my boss would have words with me. And I wouldn't disagree, because, you know, I'm late, you know. I think I've always had problems with inequality of the rules at work. Now, you know, for example, I will honestly say that my manager at the time, when my dad had died, was really good to me. And he did not have to be as kind to me as he was. So but I also was conscious of what it must look like to the rest of the team. The problem is I was an only child. So there was nobody else to deal with it. There was none of this sharing it around kind of potential. It was just me, so I had to be there. And my boss let me do the hours I could for a really long time. I'm talking like a couple of months. It felt like a couple of months at least. I don't know if it was that long, but it felt like a couple of months. There was not a question about, you know, well, yeah, oh, I don't really know. Not a question. Not once. Not once. Not at all. But part of you thinks that you earned that by many years of hard work and never taking the piss, you know? Oh, shush, dog. But as you say, you know, if he's not a squirrel, or a cat, he's not going to have really darted out in front of that guy. So to be hit does show somewhat lacking of attention. I hope he's alright. Oh, blimey. Was he in a car, or was he hit as a you know, standing in the car park kind of thing? I mean, even at slow speed, that still hurts. You do not hit someone gently with a ton of metal, you know? Especially from behind, because it's not like you even see it coming. Well, there's been a thing, funnily enough, about that in the UK today. Now, I stand on the fence with this one, because I have met 50-year-old people who could pass as 90. I've met 90-year-old people who could pass as late 40s in terms of mental acuity and all the rest of it. A lot of it is on how the person is. Now, having had some stupid old bat who looked to be as old as the hills pull out in front of me on a roundabout, so I had to stand on the brakes and kind of throw a parachute out the back to stop in time. And she just kind of drove on like nothing had happened, even though I'm blaring my horn out. She didn't even flinch, right? I would happily have vouched on that day that she was too old to drive, and, you know, and all the rest of it. But I also think of people like my grandparents, who, you know, my grandmother, aged 90-something, was driving around looking after the old people, who were people that my grandfather had taught as children. Because they needed someone to, you know, go fetch the grocery and get their pension for them, and she looked after them all. Well, my grandparents, and here's the best part, I was horrified when I found this out. So, due to the war, because obviously my grandparents were very much of the wartime. After all, my dad was born in 1947, just after the war, so clearly, and he was the youngest, so, you know, clearly the war was a thing for my grandparents. And I was very aware of that. In fact, there's a book, I was talking about this earlier today, as we were talking about heraldry, and some guy was talking about family tree, and it's like, no, I'm not listening to family tree shit. My dad, for the record, I think, and do not hold me to exact numbers, but having written the obituary, I believe my dad got 11,872 names on our family tree, right? I heard more about family trees than I ever want to hear in my life, and frankly, it's a banned subject. But my grandfather is in a book, and you can buy the book from Amazon. Now, he didn't write the book, obviously, but he's in the book. He is mentioned in the book. And it'll go, oh, what's the book? And you're like, oh, really? Okay. But I can also tell you that someone I didn't know was my relative, because I've never, well, like a lot of things, if they die really long before you exist, you don't tend to hear about them because, well, they're long since dead. My great-grandmother had a brother who was... fresh peas do go that colour. If you mush up fresh peas, they are that colour. But they have to be fresh. Normally it just looks like bad pus. I'm not a pea. However, I am not a pea fan, so, you know. But sometimes they are like lime green, and you do kind of go, Sellafield peas, perhaps. You know. What was the nuclear place that went up in Russia and my brain is just completely wiped? Chernobyl. Some peas are meant to have you eat the shell, admittedly, but proper peas are not, because the inside of the shell's furry. I used to eat fresh peas out of the garden, but I kind of went off vegetables. You can blame my parents for that, actually. If you wash 200 pounds of vegetables in a week, it's not too surprising you're a little bit sick of the sight of them. You've got to wash, weigh, trim, primp, ready for sale. It kind of takes a lot of the out of wanting to eat the buggers. I can tell you that now. Which is why, to be honest, I don't tend to eat that many vegetables. Because I got real fucking sick of them. The only thing that I didn't get sick of were apples. For some reason, even though I picked, like, 20 times my body weight in apples, I didn't mind that because I got to climb the trees. So, But as you say, right, it is, the driving standards are not necessarily great, but the news article I saw today was basically a guy who used to be on British TV called Christopher Biggins got denied having his driving licence back at the 70 because, according to some random bozo, he failed the eyesight test, even though he had a doctor and an optometrist say his eyesight's perfectly fine. And so he's concerned that many other people will fall into this category. And there is a part of me that kind of would have the same concern, in that as long as I'm still good, I do agree that just ubiquitously, just going, right, all 70-year-olds can't drive because they're too old and shit. Because not all 70-year-olds are the same, not all 50-year-olds are the same. Hell, not all 20-year-olds are the same. Just because... Well, you'd be surprised, is all I can say. There's a guy on Facebook who is an American who's come over here. And a lot of his posts are debunking a lot of that. Because although our food may not look the height of interest, just because we haven't filled it full of food colouring doesn't mean it doesn't taste of something. And now, if I said to you, bread sauce, that sounds horrendous. Don't get me wrong. I know it sounds horrendous. And frankly, it looks like, half puked up baby food. But what it tastes like is glorious. Oh, and Cornish pasties, not this fake Ginsters half shit. No, actual Cornish pasties are to die for. One thing, there were a couple of things we Brits do well, and one of them is make a pie. The other thing is make a sandwich. We will put anything in a sandwich, frankly. Pie sandwich? Yeah, we've done that. I've eaten that myself, let alone, in general. Crisp sandwiches, that's chips to you lot. we will put pretty much anything in a sandwich. And especially, I know that it's not a damn American thing to put butter on your bread. But there is something that the butter brings to a sandwich. Especially true when the content is hot. Because melted butter is a thing to die for. And it is one of those, you need to try it. Well, you've also got to remember, most of it's not ours either. Now, like your good selves, I mean, to be fair, and I mean this with a lot of respect and love, and I am taking the piss to a large extent, we sent a couple of our weirdos over in a boat who went to stay there, and they colonised your fair country with the kind of British kind of ness that they took. Now, the problem is they were not our best candidates. They were not the shining beacons of British society. They were people, frankly, that we could spare. And slightly religious nutters. And so, it's a bit like Australia. Australia was where we sent our crimps. So, you know, let's be real. The people we sent over to your fair country were not exactly people to aspire to be. And so when they didn't do things quite right, and that, in your case, didn't spell things quite right, it's not too surprising, really, because, well, they were not our best people. Now, the number of Americans, apparently, who like to claim they're Irish is quite large, apparently. But you've got to remember that the Irish, the Welsh and the Scots are all forms of Celts who were not originally British. Then you've got, you know, the people like me who come from kind of England. And, well, our heritage is so multinational that, frankly, it's quite scary. And, you know, there's a reason we're pale as death. Not as pale as the Irish, admittedly, and they are especially pale. But, you know, we are not exactly known to be the you know, darker side of white. And because, well, you know, we are the Danes, the Norwegians, the Welsh, the French, the Germans, Exactly, right? So let's not be pretending that even we're original, you know. It's a little bit like when you get these people who bang on about how they are, you know, they bought a cockapoo. There is no such thing as a cockapoo. It's a crossbreed. It's just that they've called it a name, and everyone's decided that it's really trendy, so now it's going to cost you a small mortgage to get one, but it is just a crossbreed. It's not pedigree. You can't get pedigree ones because it's not a recognised breed. And, well, we British are very much the same. We are a crossbreed of many other nations. Therefore, to be English is very, very difficult because, well, they kind of got somewhat kind of overridden by the many invading forces. Hello, the Romans, right? So let's not be pretending here that many of us are necessarily, you know, traceably English, 100%. Then, of course, much as your good selves, we bunched them over there. And, well, many of you are not necessarily native, truly American. I mean, you go back a way, but, you know, I mean, obviously there are Native Americans, of course there are. But usually the ones who bang on about it are the least American of you all. And while today, I could potentially up sticks, next month come and live in America, do a job. It would be a bit more complicated, but in principle, doesn't make me American. I could renationalise, still doesn't make me American. I could, and we can just get on a plane now and arrive somewhere tomorrow. We didn't have that back then. And it took months, and many people died mid-journey. So it was quite a big risk going to a new land far away. But at the same time, it's amazing how well humanity spread. Now, they've traced humanity spreading out. The earliest kind of human that they know of was found in Africa. So to an extent, it kind of suggests that we all spread out over the course of a long time from there. So, if that's true, none of us are indigenous to the lands that we're on. So, we need to perhaps get off our high horses and accept that, we did what all animals do, which was go, hey, there's space over there, let's try that. It's, there is just so much that is almost magical about where and how we got to where we are. Because of course it's not like there's records. Well, one of the things that I seem to recall, now I can't remember where I read it, but someone actually proved that there were mammoths in the UK. At the same time, there were humans, which was thought not to be the case. That mammoths had all died out long before kind of humans came along. And the stereotypical kind of caveman and mammoth depiction was a load of rot. Because, like elephants, like humans, went through a few kind of incarnations before arriving at the final deal. Like everything, many nations kind of go, oh, well, of course, I'm naturally... Well, really? How have you determined that you are originally... I wouldn't dare to claim that I'm 100. I mean, all the generations that I personally know of were British. But my dad traced our family tree. He got various countries, and half of it I'd like to use the word bullshit. Mainly because records predating certain times are highly inaccurate. It's not like national insurance numbers or, some form of digital ID or wherever, where, each person has a unique number, and that John Smith here is John Smith there. Just because they said he went there didn't mean he actually did, and all that kind of crap. But he found, married sisters, brothers and sisters. Again, it's not something to be proud of, really. So, just looking at the, if I jute it forward slightly. Oops! That's my fly thing taking a dive bomb. Hang on. Let me put this back and pick up my fly thing. Hang on. I know, Rory. Right. See, there's the sticky out bit at the back. And if we zoom in on it, hang on. A bit more slightly. There you go. This side's not quite looking as straight as I'd like, but that's where we're at with it. Now let's put my fly zappy back. Well, it should, but blocking is a very dangerous affair when it comes to and now for some reason my fly thing doesn't seem to be doing. Oh, it is doing something. Okay. Alright. Blocking should help with that, but what I intend to do is part of the reason this is a straighter line is so I can attach. I'm going to buy me some thin, that really thin ribbon shit that you can buy to give it an edge. A slightly strengthened edge, and the straight line is so that it makes it easier to sew it, to be honest. Obviously, this side's got the bubbles on it so that I can sew it to the next strip, because technically you have to turn them over. So, that's the plan. But at some point, we will wrap our makings round this so that it doesn't dangle too much off the back and doesn't end up catching in things and all of those kind of moments that we don't need in life. Oh, for goodness sake, animals! I've had that air squirty thing for like 3 years. Don't even think it's really squirting at the moment. I think I need to give it new batteries. I think it's doing the squirt, but it's not hard enough to actually squirt it. So it's just kind of going and not actually sticking the stink out the front. No, I see a mistake. Oh, tragedy. Let's go back and fix it. started it! These weren't crossed before we started. Let's undo that, shall we, children? And this time, we will remember to actually twist them before we start. That's better. I make a cat to me. It's a hard life. feel like I've hit a spider at the back. Pins don't seem very dense. Looks pretty good. Let's put it this way. There's no screamingly obvious error in it. I mean, I'm sure there is, but it doesn't look too bad. I mean, if I pull the table forward slightly. Let me zoom in, hang on. Go left a bit and up a bit. There you go. I mean, it doesn't scream screw up. It looks all nice and even and all that kind of stuff. So, you know. It's usually about now you spot all the mistakes. So, you know. I mean, this looks a little bit kind of weak at the edge, but it's not that bad. If I kind of flatten it out, you can see it's actually straight. It's not that it's not straight, it just looks a little bit kind of manky. But what will happen is this goes on the back. Look, see how big it looks now. And then this will roll up and it will roll under, whichever way we choose to do it. But, you know, it's actually not that big. It just looks really big when zoomed up. But that'll go on a go on there to keep it all safe and protected from distraction, because, well, let's be honest, that would be a real tragedy. So, and at some point, I need to prick more of this and attach it to here, which goes kind of about there-ish, and we'll attach that so that that can go around. I've done down to here, so I have done a bit more, but not a lot, because, well, I've got quite a bit of time, really. But as I said, other things I have been doing. I made these, which, let me zoom in for you. Not very exciting, but little 6-pointed petal things. And the idea will be that, not that I can demonstrate it that well, but they will fit together like this. So the corner of this one goes to the corner of there, and that goes to the middle. So I can make like a little sheet of them. These are a lot easier to make than the stupid square things I was doing. Because you just make 6 loops, and the hardest part is joining the loops to themselves, not to anything else. That's easy enough. It's the doing it to themselves. It is the final join that I struggle with the most. And I did unfortunately have to kill off one of them for the simple reason I forgot to make one of the loops. But see, I could do something so that I could make a chain that goes across that kind of joins all these points but puts Pico in, so that it just adds a line in between to give it makes loops but not 6-pointed star loops kind of thing. But I quite like the idea of them kind of joining together. As I said, not that it shows it very well because it's not quite the right shape, but that's how they kind of join together. So this would kind of fit in there like that, if you ignore the fact that there's only 2 here, but that would then join in there like that, so it make a kind of continuous block. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, joining them together is most fiddly. Joining like 2 points of this to 2 points of that, cake. Making a string of them, therefore, easy. Joining them together, harder. Alright, little man. We're dreaming of dogty things. But yeah, so I had a bit more go at that, and it's going all right actually. I did get the other needles I ordered. Where are they? There they are. Look at the size of these. Hang on. These, yeah, look at these, look at the size of these. Which one's the chunkiest? There are 3 different sizes, and it's really hard to tell the sizes apart. Yeah, they are. But they are designed for tatting with. But this is designed for chunky yarn. I mean, looks a bit thin for chunky yarn, but maybe it's the chunkiest yarn that normal people would consider tatting with. I think that's possibly more accurate. But I have a full set of these little buggers now. Pretty much. Whereas, if I show you these ones, which are the other ones that I've got, I mean, let me just re-get these so that you can compare them, right? So if we zoomed in a little bit, I mean, if you compare this one to El Fatso here, I mean, yeah, it can't even focus on it. It's kind of like, what you expect me to do with that? I mean, this is, you know, people work with wire thicker than that, but it is kind of. Hey, EP. We're just kind of reviewing some tatting needles. Let's help it focus. There you go. But these are somewhat. Probably can't fly with them would be my natural reaction. The only thing I do find odd is that the thinner ones aren't shorter. They feel unnecessarily long, considering how many stitches you would get on the tiniest of the needles. It seems very unnecessarily long and bendable. The other thing that I like with these ones is they come with needle threaders, and these needle threaders are really quite nice. So if I hang on, didn't want to come out, it's now got teeth marks on it, but not that you can see too well, but it's a needle threader, and you get two, and they're both the same, so you know. Oh, that one's a bit bigger, but yeah, I hadn't actually looked at that, but they're quite good, and they're very sturdy, so you can actually give them a good tug. Got a couple of those, which is quite nice, because the little standard metal ones that you get, well, as we all know, broke very easily. So, but those seem quite solid, and would arguably be quite repairable should they not. So, but we have made it to inch number 4, my friends. We have made it to inch 4. I think we're like 2 stitches behind. Technically, we need to do like 3 or 4 stitches in here to technically, if you want to be kind of absolute about it. But it's been a day. I've got to get up early in the morning. Yeah, I know it is, really, isn't it? But I do like the, you know, how even and pretty it looks already. Kind of. I mean, as we all know, it's been a bit of work getting here. We obviously did the excessively long detour around the squares, but... Well, so do I. By the way, just in case anyone was curious, for the little white things, I'm using that fatter lace making thread that I had that I was never likely to use for anything in particular. And I've got a couple of colours as well. So I could do kind of some stripe and random flower of colour. Could being the operative word. Will, maybe not. Oh, I've got the yawns again. I am determined to go to bed earlier today. I am. I won't, but I am determined to try harder. But yeah, so that's what I've used to make these. I made the slightly thicker lace making thread. And I know that they're not perfect either, because like that one's not joined in the middle. But hey, you know, webs. Yeah, I'm definitely pleased with my strip. I think it's looking good. We've caught a number of errors, so with any luck, there aren't any that we know of so far. Right, just checking, you know. Something doesn't quite look right there. Hang on. I think it is. It just looks a little bit funky. Anyway, I'm going to take a picture of it. As it is and all that. I don't want too much of my carpet in it. I do kind of want... Problem is I can't see the screen because of the light, which really doesn't help. I got a ton of guess. How does that look? Yeah, that's work. Oh no, definitely do better than that. I do hate when you viewed a picture that you've just taken to see if you like it, and you say no. It then moves to the next picture. It doesn't go back to the bloody camera. Hang on, let me put this in front of the camera so I can, the light, so I can see where I'm lining it up with. There we go. That's better. So I'm sorry you had a picture of my arm then. And I'm still wrong, you know. For fuck's sake. Why is it proving to be so hard to take a picture of a bit of lace? There. That's better. She says, glaring at it, looking for mistakes. I don't think there are any. Not. I mean, I know normally I'm quite good at spotting them, but I think I'm doing all right. It's looking all right, you know. Right. I shall see you tomorrow afternoon. So that's 12, 13, 14, 15, well, 15 and a half hours time. And you wonder why I'm tired. Oh. 15 and a half hours and I'll be back here doing more of the same. There's my cloth of protectionness. There we go. There we go, like that. But yes, I shall be back then. So apologies for those who have joined us in the final closing moments. I will be back tomorrow. Thank you for coming. You be good, everybody, and I shall be back tomorrow afternoon. Take care. Bye bye.